Yes, hello guys, welcome to a new video, and yes, you join me here at my desk with my laptop, and today we're going to do a Lightroom video. A pretty cool one. We're going to look at 5 things to kind of up your editing game, or to instantly make you a better editor, or make you better, or have a better understanding of Lightroom. This is a Lightroom tutorial, so I'm going to go through things in Lightroom today, and this can also benefit you probably if you're not using Lightroom. A good couple of points to do while you're editing, because a lot of different apps have, what Lightroom has now with the tone curve, HSL and stuff like that. So we're going to go through that today, 5 things to instantly up your editing game. Right then, so number 1, I have all these written in my notes so I don't forget them. 1 to 5. So number 1, this is the most important thing when you can do. This is out while you're shooting, okay? Before Lightroom, this is before anything, okay? Grab your camera, right? I know this you guys probably know what's coming, but shoot in RAW. You have to shoot in RAW if you want the most kind of optimum editing experience when you upload or put your photos into Lightroom. What RAW basically means is you're going to shoot an uncompressed image, so it's not compressed like a JPEG image. When you shoot RAW, you're going to have that capability of accessing colors in a more deeper sense. RGB is going to be much more dominant in a RAW photo, so when you're editing in Lightroom, you'd see kind of your colors move a little bit more as if you're going to do it in JPEG. So that's number 1. Always shoot in RAW. It's easy to do. If you're shooting on a Sony camera, it's on the first tab. It says quality. Just choose RAW, or you can choose RAW and JPEG. I don't really tend to do that. I'm just going to be always shooting in RAW, so I don't know why I need an extra JPEG file. Maybe to send to clients, but I would just kind of decompress the RAW file, turn it into a JPEG, then send that. So not really bothered with that. So you can go standard, fine, extra fine, RAW and JPEG and RAW. So always have your camera in RAW if you want to edit at the optimum kind of limit you can go to when you're doing this in Lightroom, okay? Is shoot in RAW. So that's the most important thing you have to do first in your camera. Cool, right, number 2, let's hop into Lightroom and get the screen recorder going. Okay, so right, we're in Lightroom now. The screen is recording, as you can see. Lovely picture of the Seven Sisters as I went down there a few weeks ago now. Got some photos from there, so we're going to use these as just an example. Right, so what I'm going to do now is kind of the first few points are going to be kind of standard, kind of general points, what you do in Lightroom before we get into the kind of the deep areas, right? This is what I do as a kind of routine. Take shots and I upload them to Lightroom. I always flag my photos in Lightroom. So I'm going to flag my best ones. Make sure you flag the best ones that you're going to choose to edit. It just makes it a lot easier when you're in Lightroom, and you can just manage your photos a lot better. So what you do, we're in library at the moment. Yeah, let's go to library. Let's take off the filters. Okay, so this is just a bunch of photos I took while I was down at the Seven Sisters. I took 168 on card 1. So that's using the Sony A7R2. So as you can see, there is, quite a lot of duplicate shots here. Obviously I need to pick them accordingly. Just pick 1 out of 3 and stuff like that. So what I'll do, just me, standard, I go in, you double click to make it bigger, or spacebar. So as I go, I'd go P, right? That is flag as pick. So if you press P, it will flag the picture with a little flag down here, obviously. And if I don't want it, I can go down here and click it off, okay? Flag it, press P, and then off. So I went through these and flagged the best ones. Now, as you can see, they're still in the original kind of format. They're in here, there's flagged and unflagged ones. Now what you do, simple as, just go up to library, enable filters, yeah? So that'll put all the flagged ones there, and if it doesn't, you need to go down to here, filter by flag, flagged only. So that means you get all your flagged photos, the best ones that you picked, so it's easier to edit. Okay, so that's number 2. Just a simple kind of thing which could ease your editing, and so your photos aren't everywhere. You can flag the ones and they come up as the ones you've chosen in your actual library here. Okay, so I've got some landscapes and some portraits in here, so I know where all my photos are. They're in order of the time they're taken and stuff like that. So that's just a simple little thing which should help you organize your photos a little bit better. So that's number 2. Okay, then number 3, right, we are in Lightroom, we have chosen our photo, we're gonna edit this one today. Now, to edit your photo, you press D, develop. So it's gonna show all your kind of basic, tone curve and all those tabs on your right-hand side. Or you can just double click, develop. Now number 3 is to utilize all these tabs, okay? So If they're not kind of showing, you just go to the little corner here where the triangle is, and you click and it comes down. So basic, we're going to utilize basic, tone curve, HSL, and split toning. Those are the 4 most important ones that I focus on when editing a photo in Lightroom. I start with the basic, and then I move down to the tone curve, and then HSL, and then we go into split toning. And kind of sharpening and kind of graying and all this other stuff down here is kind of personal preference as to what you want your photo to look like. But if you want to dive in every single aspect of the photo, basic, tone curve, and HSL and split toning is going to allow you to do that. And coming back to the first point, shooting in RAW, it's just going to give you a better experience while editing a RAW photo in Lightroom if you shoot RAW. So we're going to have a look at this quickly. Basic. I don't know, this is kind of like just a general kind of outlook on Lightroom and how to kind of, this is not so much I'm going to go through all of these and teach you how to use them. This is just, you have to learn how to utilize these. I've got tons of videos on this on my channel already. I've actually got one how to master the tone curve and how to edit in Lightroom like a boss as well. This was like 3 years ago now, that video. So I'll just quickly brush over this. I might speed it up just to give you a look of what I do when I edit in Lightroom, okay? So here we go. Okay, so just going to stop the speed thingy there. So luminance, I'm on luminance now. As you can see, the yellow is happening, it does edit it quite a lot. Now this is, again, going back to the first point, shooting RAW. When you're on JPEG, this won't really change that much. I mean, it will, but it just won't do it at an optimum kind of quality, if that makes sense. Same with the orange there, you can actually bring it right down to where it's dark and go right up. It just allows you to take that limit an extra bit further when you're editing in a RAW photo. And you can really separate the colours here. So aqua is going to do the water, the ocean, and then blue is going to do the sky, which I think is really nice. It's just so good how you can edit all these things separately. And RAW is going to allow you to do that at the best you can do in a photo, if that makes sense. Split toning, just going to put my kind of standard split tone in here, so kind of push some yellow in the highlights, right? And we're going to go a little bit blue in the shadows with this kind of ocean vibe. Get that shadows looking nice. Yeah, okay. So before and after, we've just utilized the basic, the tone curve. I edited blue, green, and red in the tone curve, and the overall RGB, okay? I'm going to dive into that at my 4th point. Utilize the HSL and the split toning, and what you can do with that, just those 4 things, okay, you can transform a photo quite a lot, as you can see right there. We've added a lot of mood, we've boosted the colors a little bit, not by adding saturation, by the way. Well, okay, a little bit in the saturation tab here with the orange and the aqua, but the overall tab of saturation hasn't moved, or the vibrance hasn't moved in those tabs, okay? What I've done is edit the tone curve, the red, green, and blue, messed around with the HSL and the split toning, and we've been able to transform the photo quite a lot just doing that, not adding any saturation on the whole photo, okay? So that's a really cool thing to do. You don't have to do much, right, to get your photo looking a lot different. So yeah, utilize those 4 things: basic, tone curve, HSL, split toning. It's really important. Number 4 then, we've been all through those 4 things, the 4 tabs in there. Utilize them, it will really help you. Now number 4, this is kind of diving into a deeper kind of sense of editing right here. So number 4 is master the tone curve. If you can master this, and if you can control this, you can pretty much do anything to your photo you can want, okay? So this is the tone curve. It's number 2 on the tabs on your right hand side, and if it's not showing, click the triangle, it will drop down. As you see the tone curve, right, I've kind of gone for like an S curve, yeah? So many people think, I don't know, if you're new to editing stuff like this, they tend to shy away from the tone because it looks intimidating. It's actually not that bad. It's pretty simple, right? So if I draw an imaginary line like this, okay, through there, you see that, right? The bottom half in this area is going to control your darks and your blacks, and half your midtones. And the other area, the top area, is going to do your highlights, right? Simple. So if you make a point here, as I've done, and push it up and down, it's going to do the top half of the image where the light is, or wherever your light may be in the photo. And down here, it's going to do your shadows, right? So the deeper you go, as in the more you pull it down, it's going to go darker. And the more you go, the more you start to see clipping. As you see, this clipping is like the kind of mushy kind of black bit you see at the bottom there. So you want a good balance, yeah? So around there. And far to the left is going to be your black point, right? This is kind of the fade in the photo. So now, you know, fade is very popular nowadays in photos. Well, it kind of always has been. So if you want fade, you boost that a little bit. But be aware of these two are going to work together. Midtones you don't need to change that much. I mean, if you check, it's just the overall kind of midtone of the photo, right? So don't be too intimidated about the tone curve. So just play around with it. Make as many points as you want. See what they do. Intimidate it instead of it rather intimidate you. Okay. So just put a load of points everywhere. See what they do, right? Okay, like this. That changes there. It will give you a lot of control within the image. And if you don't want to see what you've just done, you can delete control point, or you can actually flatten the whole curve. Okay. I've got a whole video in this, right? I've got a whole video on this actual thing talking about. I think it's about 20 to 30 minutes long. It's called Master Tone Curve. I'm looking at it up in the right corner somewhere, or wherever the thing goes. Do watch that video because I go through how to use the tone curve and all the aspects you can do to change your image with the tone curve, right? I'm not going to sit here for 30 minutes now on point 4 explaining how to use the tone curve. So go to that video, watch that. This is just in my points of how to up your editing game. If you're not using tone curve, use the tone curve. I mean, this you can get it on the Lightroom app. I think Snapseed is now doing it. I think Vosco you can have a tone curve, and I think some other apps you can use a tone curve. So this kind of is beneficial for the kind of general editing is tone curve. You can also use this in iMovie. I think you can use it in iMovie, and you can use it in Final Cut Pro when you're grading as well. So do look at that. So that is just the RGB, right? This is the whole this is the curve on the whole image. And if you want to dive into colors, there's red, green, and blue down here. Now, red, I've put 2 points. Only 2 points, I don't do 3, okay? Red, I've pulled down here a little bit. Okay, you've got to understand what the colors do. This is all in my other video, right? So I'm just going to show you what I've done. So 2 points here on red. On green, I've done the same. And on blue, I've done the same. Now, if you do these specific points in here, it will give you kind of the golden look, which I like to go for when editing, okay? So it pulls blue into the shadows, and it pushes kind of greeny yellow into the highlights, yeah? So you get that kind of vintage, golden kind of look. If you want more red in the shadows, all you have to do is on the red point, you have to push up, okay? So more vintage, okay, which looks pretty cool. But for my kind of style and the way my feed is going at the moment on Instagram, I like more of a blue shadow, okay? So that's the tone curve. If you master that, you're going to have a lot more control over your image, definitely over kind of up here, as you see the highlight shadows, whites and blacks in the basic. They do kind of the same as a tone curve, but you don't have that pinpoint precision you can use in a tone curve to get your image where you want it to be. Cool, so that's the tone curve. Do go watch my master tone curve video. Right, let's move on to number 5 then. 5, the last point in my kind of up your editing strategy, okay? Number 5, if you really want to get fancy with editing, you have to use these things, okay? So at the moment, our image is looking good. We've transformed it quite a lot. I mean, you can go ahead and post that. It looks good. It looks like you can edit well, okay? We've boosted more color in the foreground there, given a more moody look to the image. Coastal shots, this works really well with. So we've done that already, it's good. But if you want to get overly fancy and overly kind of, well, it's not too much. It's not too much to the fact that it will make the photo look fake. It's just adding your preferable style to an image, okay? So at the top, we have these circle things, okay, and one kind of rectangle and a square. The square is obviously crop. This is the clone and heal tool. Don't need to use that unless you're doing kind of a portrait where you need to get rid of blemishes. I will make a video on that soon, I think. I think that'll be a good one to make. Red eye, don't need to worry about that. This is kind of my favorite tool in Lightroom. I use this all the time. This is the graduated filter, okay? You would see me use this in a lot of my Lightroom tutorials, and we're gonna go over it today. Not in vast detail, but I'm just gonna show you what it does and how it can up your editing game, okay? So that's the graduated filter. Here is the radial filter. I don't tend to use this that much because there's a brush tool over here. Radial filter will add like a circle and you can edit within the circle, okay? Brush tool is you can have much more control. You can actually brush over a part of the image and change the exposure, saturation, and stuff like that. So let's look at the brush tool first, okay? So when you select the brush tool, it's going to give you kind of like the basic tab, okay? So temperature, tint, exposure, and all the way down to clarity, saturation. When you click the brush tool, it's going to give you this circle with another circle inside, okay? So as you see what I'm doing on the trackpad, I'm moving my fingers up and down like this. It's going to make the circle bigger and make the circle smaller, okay? That's just how it is default. You may have to change some settings if it's not like that, but that's just how it is. I use a MacBook Pro 2019. That's just what it is on default. And you can see the size change down in the bottom right corner. Now my feather is around 77. So what feather means is the circle inside against the outside circle, okay? Whatever you edit in the middle circle, it's going to fade out to the edge circle, okay? If that makes sense. If you put the feather right up to 100%, yeah, it's going to add more kind of, I don't know what word to use. Fall off is, okay, that'd be a good word. Yeah, fall off. The edit falls off very nicely, feathers to the outside. If the feather is 0, you're just going to have one circle, right? And that will make your kind of circle very harsh. You'll be able to see where you've edited in your photo, so don't kind of use this. Make sure you have a little bit of feather in there, okay? So back to 77. Right, so with this image, I would like to make the water a little bit more crisp, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press O on the keyboard here, which will show up where you're editing, okay? So look at that, right? And if you don't want it, obviously Command Z will get rid of it. So now we can see where we're actually editing. So if I just highlight the water very roughly like this, okay? And if you've done a horrible job, you can go down here to erase in the bottom right corner. And that will bring up another one, similar circle, with the feathering and everything. And when you click down, you can erase the red where you have horribly marked, like I have, okay? Right? This is just an example. I mean, I don't do this when I'm properly editing, but I'm just showing you how the tool works. We've highlighted this part of the water, okay? So click off O, so now you can see what you're editing. Exposure, high, yeah, okay? You can do a lot. Clarity, I'm going to boost the clarity a little bit to get it a little bit more crisp. Shadows, and maybe a little bit more saturation to get that water showing really, really nicely, okay? So that's that. You can also use it on other parts of the image, obviously, of where you want to edit different parts and vice versa and all that stuff. Right, graduated filter then. This is one of my favorites to use in Lightroom. So what this does, you can see a little plus sign on the screen there. And if I click and pull down to the left, it's going to give you 3 lines, okay? So anything to the right side of where you've pulled left, that's going to be your editing area, okay? So right now, on the right, you'd see it change, yeah? This is really cool. I love this kind of filter. You can bring in mood, you can bring in light, you can bring in different colors and stuff like that. So what I like to do is kind of, especially in this photo, because I would like to kind of replicate the light coming in from the right side instead of the left, okay? As you see, the left is quite dark already, and it's kind of doesn't make sense if the light comes in from the left. As being a coastal shot, the rocks are on the left-hand side, and you want the right coming in and shining on the rocks, okay? That's how I would like to edit this photo. So I would kind of mark up where I want it to go, and then just push in some light like this, yeah? Black's very high, because I want that soft light, okay? And you can bring down the highlights to get kind of more detail in there. Just a little bit, you don't need to do too much. So, as you can see, the sun is kind of replicated as on the right side, flashing, kind of beaming down on those rocks, and now because we've intimidated where the sun is, we can go back to our brush tool, mask over the rocks a little bit, like so, and we can kind of boost exposure, we can put some more warmth in there on the rocks, and a little bit more clarity, okay? This is not much, I'm only going kind of 5 to 10 on the tabs here, this is not much. And if we want to get really kind of moody, we can bring another graduating filter in from the right side. Left to right, I mean, okay? And we can put in some mood like this. It's really cool what you can do. You can imitate the clouds and stuff. And this is another good thing shooting in RAW. And if you're shooting with a camera which has good dynamic range, you can do a lot here. You can pull in shadows, take away highlights, you can do a lot. So that's looking really, really moody right now. And you know, nowadays, kind of photos don't have to be perfect. I mean, that's what I'll actually post to Instagram. If someone from kind of I don't know, commercial kind of photographer comes and looks at this, they'll think it looks horrible. Why have you got vignette? Vignette is bad. Darkness is, why have you brought in darkness from the left to right? Doesn't matter nowadays. If you know what your style is and you're happy with your style being moody, being kind of extravagant and all this stuff, people like it. It shows off your kind of personal style and how you edit your photos. So this is how I edit. This is actually how I edit. The left side, I can care less, right? I want the light coming in, shining on those rocks. I've got good colors in the foreground with this yellow, and then this kind of moody stuff coming from the left side. It looks awesome in my opinion. Let me know down in the comments below if you're more kind of traditional photographer, you want everything in focus, kind of shooting at f8, f13 on a landscape shot, or I shot this, when I shoot this out, I shot this at 1.4, okay, on a 35mm. So you got that kind of creamy stuff going on in the foreground. Sharpness is really good in the middle where the rocks are, as you can see there. Using the Sigma 35 is a really good lens actually on the Sony A7R II, which I'm filming on. And it just makes that creamy, kind of dreamy look, okay, which I really, really love. So, if you utilize these tools up here, the graduating filter, the brush tool, it can really transform your image in what you kind of put your personality into an image. You don't have to be traditional with photos nowadays. You can do whatever you want. You can go crazy. You can be extravagant. You can bring in mood from the right side, bring in light from the left side. You can do absolutely everything with these filters, and I highly recommend you use them. Cool. So that's a little insight on how I edit, how I utilize these kind of tabs in Lightroom, and how it can up your editing game. If you're using all of these points and learn them well, all you have to do is kind of mess around with them, click everywhere. Don't kind of be intimidated. Intimidate it instead of it rather intimidate you. I've kind of made that like a slogan now, haven't I? So yeah, 5 points. There you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below how you edit, and if you do use these things, and if you like putting your personality in photos, I'd love to hear it. Awesome, guys. So that's it. I may post this one on Instagram later. This will be up kind of this week. What are we now? Saturday. Yeah, probably Sunday tomorrow we upload. Cool. Awesome, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next one. Goodbye.
Yeah, hundreds on my bed, texting with the bill, roses in my wallet, and I'm flexing it for real. Racks on racks on racks, I look like rookie of the year. Frontin' with the cash, it's getting moody over here. Hundreds on my bed, texting with the bill, roses in my wallet, and I'm flexing it for real.